read them off of here?
No, I'll read them.
A little ambience here with the candles.
Yeah, I'll put a hat out front.
Look at that.
It's like you're choosing a farm at high school.
This is college only. This is the farm that we're picking.
I'm here with my dad, if you guys can't see the resemblance. By popular demand, we're going to do a short interview while we're overlaying. It's been quite a few weeks, but let's pretend it's going on right now. Justin is finishing up the last soybeans of 2021 on a little, 11-acre piece?
Yeah.
A key piece in the farm. You come around the S-curves over there, and it's the first thing you see before the grain bin set up. So it's a nice plot of land. The sun is setting. Really nice drone footage. So I hope you guys enjoy that. And 2021 was for everyone probably watching this, a bit of a whirlwind year. And farming was no different. It might have been even more irregular than some other industries you guys follow. We're here with the man himself, and we're going to see how he feels about it. How long have you been farming?
Since all by myself since 1977.
1977. So
couple years.
45 years.
45 years.
We're talking now is 2022. How many years have you wanted to quit?
You know what? If you really don't love farming, you'd quit after 1 year sometimes, because you run into these hardships and it's just not fun when things aren't going good.
So Dad, how would you rate 2021 overall?
Well, naturally with farming, the weather has such a major impact on it. So with us doing hay and everything and custom work, it really put a cramp in our style, setting us back. Just couldn't get done with one thing and go into the next. They were just overlapping.
For someone who maybe hasn't followed the channel that long, what was the weather pattern like, especially earlier in the year?
It's just rain. Just kept on raining. Maybe you get a day off, day and a half where it wouldn't rain, and then chase you out of the fields again. You'd have rain again.
And our type of soils, we really need about a week without rain to do anything.
It doesn't dry out that fast. We got the clay in our soil, and when it's wet, it just stays wet. Makes it really tough. And then, when you got all the acres of hay that we have to do, you like to be able to get started on that, late May, early June. Well, it just never shut off all summer long. And hay, you not only have to have the ground dry, so when you mow it, the hay itself will dry and you get it baled right. But you need stretches of warm weather along with dry weather. And we were lucky to get 2 days where we were getting rain. So it just pushed our hay schedule way off. It just took cuttings away. Some of our cuttings weren't made until late summer. So what do? You just have to be patient.
I remember, I don't know if it plays a real role, but once we finally got started, it feels like our climate was so saturated with moisture, we were having crazy humidity then.
Yeah.
We were having 60-65% humidity, which you can't get hay dry hardly with that humidity anyways.
Yeah, you want to get hay down to 13%. Well, all of a sudden it'll hit 18-19%, and because of the humidity, it just hung there. It just made it tough all the time.
It was the weirdest feeling. At this point, we were trying to do wheat and spray and side dress and everything. We were trying to do it all because the weather finally broke. And you're sitting there feeling the hay, thinking it's been down for 3 days, and it just felt almost waxy. It just felt wet.
Just like hung in limbo there with you.
Yep.
It really did.
So that painted a relatively gloomy picture. What were some successes we had though?
You know what? The thing that really surprised me was, you try to be on making hay in a timely fashion, just for quality, color, just everything works nicer when you get it in the 30-35 day range on making your schedule. But we actually watched hay get all the way ripe and overripe, and then the new stuff started growing up in it. So by the time we got to some of the hay, it actually looked like second and third cutting. It didn't look like garbage like you would think it'd be being made 2-3 months late. That probably was one of the nicest successes that we have, that the hay we were making looked really good. And all the horses and stuff are eating it great, so that made it nice.
Seems to be palatable, it really does. I'm wondering if they're going to hear Pete snoring. I'm going to wake her up.
There she's looking at you.
We're actually filming in front of an audience here.
Pete.
We have Pete, Benton.
She's a good dog.
Oh, I'm wondering how the snoring's going to show up. Oh well, we're going to have to live with it. I can't really think of one catastrophic. I mean, I totaled that head. That might have been
That happens.
That was a pretty catastrophic failure, but we had a couple little dings and dents, things that happen every year. Nothing crazy.
We had some combine issues that
We did.
they were. We had some pip issues on the combines that they did like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. We're supposed to fix these problems on the combines. Well, then we're running behind anyways, and we're harvesting soybeans. And we had one combine go down, and then that was down because of all the parts issues that they're having throughout the country. You just held your breath when something broke that they would even have the part, let alone get the part in. So that was probably one of our toughest things. We had a machine down better than a week right in the heart of harvest. And then we had two other machines that we told them to go ahead and go through those before they come unglued on an issue that they supposedly fixed 2 years ago that John Deere put out. So wasn't really happy about that whole thing, but in the long run they finally got it going in that. I just hope that they hold together now. The planting went actually pretty darn good for what we were fighting. Really, really did.
What would you have done differently? I guess if you knew the weather we were going to have, what could you have changed?
There's not a whole lot you can change.
No.
You put some of our acres in prevent plant just because it never did dry out enough to able to plant it. I guess if I knew it was going to be as wet as it was, our river bottom pieces, we never would have planted those because we actually had good crops growing in the river bottoms. And then because we were having so much rain throughout the summer, the rivers went over. We had 10-foot tall corn with no ears on it because it was just washed out by water.
Yep.
So we sort of threw our money away on that, but you never know about that. If we wouldn't have had all that rain and the river wouldn't have went over, that probably would have been our best corn. But what do you do?
Would you make any drastic changes going into next season?
Yeah, I'd have put a lot more fertilizer down 2 years ago because these input costs are just it's gonna be tough on us now. And fertilizer, seed, chemicals. One thing I did luck out on, I bought a lot of chemicals ahead.
Yep.
Not really intentionally, but we ended up with a bunch. And some of those things is 5 times as much now, so we did good there.
So you're sitting on like a fortune in Roundup now.
Yeah, I did not expect that.
No.
Roundup used to be one of our cheapest sprays we could use. Now it's just unbelievable how much it's went up.
What kind of long-term goals? Well, let's do short-term first. What are some goals for next year we're hoping to hit? Or you're hoping to hit personally?
Well, we'd naturally like to put some more hay acres in because that seems to be working well. Want to get on with the hay. One of the things this year that we couldn't do that we needed to do would have been having our regular spray intervals where you take the cutting off and like a week later we go in there and spray insecticide, put fertilizer and all of that on. But the fields were getting wet, so we couldn't go over with our ground applicator. We even had several points this year that we got hit hard with armyworms, and those things give you a window about that big that you can treat them. So we actually had to get the airplane in to treat those. But definitely wanna, if the weather allows us, be on the regular spraying program with our hay, because that definitely puts bales of hay in the barn. There's no doubt about it. Just makes it better quality, keeps the plant healthier, fertilized, makes more hay. Like I said, if the weather allows us, I would really like to step that game up for our haying operation.
Now, you're talking about planting some more hay. What mixes or straight alfalfa or straight grass, or what do you think has worked?
Well, whatever I put in, about a week after I put it in, my son here will say, we don't need that. I'm not having a call for that. But he always seems to use up everything we make.
If you're still watching at this point, thank you so much. I need 2 things from you guys. If you're not a subscriber, please be one now and smash that button. And 2, if there's a question I missed, maybe I'll have gotten to it, but maybe not. Please comment down below something you'd like to hear. This man has been farming for, well, you heard in the video how long. And he's very knowledgeable in hay and grain, commodity prices, inputs, all that. So if there's something, even if it's real detailed, We farm in the northern Ohio region, so our climate is, there's a couple of states with our similar climate. Ask away. Maybe we can get some answers for you.
Around here, I like having a mixed hay just because of our climate, our ground, everything. Alfalfa, it lasts for X amount of years just because it gets wet feed around here. So I like putting alfalfa and then having my orchard grass and timothy in with it. Then you don't end up with a field with bare spots, weeds, this and that. If you can continuously have actual hay in the bales, makes a huge difference, and that gives you the edge over all these guys that are out there just baling up weeds. And that's why we put, the timothy orchard grass alfalfa mix, just because when one doesn't fill in a spot, hopefully the other one steps up and that fills in those spots.
So we've had people ask before, pretty much more so on the grain side of things. You talked about how John Deere, we weren't too happy with some of the treatments this year, but why overall do you run mostly John Deere row crop stuff?
Because in the past, I mean, and still, John Deere, they're leading the pack on what they have. Normally over my lifetime since I've been buying it, since back, I think I bought my first tractor back in 1977. John Deere has and was very, very reliable. Nowadays you start running into the computer glitches and all that. It doesn't matter if it's John Deere or who it is, they all start having that problem.
How come you see so many red masses out there with the hay operation?
We found that Massey do the same work that the John Deeres will do for a unbelievably less price per unit. Comfortable. So far, they've been very reliable for us. We have some good John Deere dealers or good Massey dealers around here, which play a major part too. Also,
yeah, the support's been pretty good. They treat us well.
From what we're seeing, the Massey balers seem to be really coming to the top of the heap, being the best. From what we're seeing, I've ran John Deere balers, I've ran New Holland balers. These Massey Ferguson balers are they make a nice consistent bale for us, and they've been very reliable, they really have.
Where do you see the future of farming going? You think it's going to change a lot?
Oh, it's going to become more and more mechanized, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. John Deere, they're just coming out with that new tractor now that you don't have to sit in the seat. I don't know if we'll see that in these eastern states, but I can see it working where there's these big huge fields and stuff like that, just because it's getting tougher and tougher to get skilled labor, let alone any labor.
I don't know if autonomy will come around here either, because we run over some acres, but we hardly have any acres over 80. Hardly have any fields over 80 acres.
No.
A lot of it's mixed up everywhere.
And the road traffic around here is just next to impossible. You really, unless you get these areas like we're in, where we're right on the edge of the sprawling Cleveland area, that moving this way, you do not know what road traffic is. You really don't. And our roads around here are not built for our big equipment either. We have as much trouble overhead hitting wires as we do hitting mailboxes on the sides of the roads, and it just makes it tough.
All right, last question. What's something that you wish you knew 20 years ago, or I guess 35 or 40 years ago when you started farming?
I guess I would have tried to buy more land, because back then you thought a couple $1,000s an acre was a lot for land. Now you can't touch land around here for $10,000 an acre.
Oh yeah.
So I guess I would have liked to put more money into land back then instead of equipment. They're always making equipment. They're not making any more land.